Hello, this is John with Gringo.dev, and today I really did want to talk about something a little bit more reflective in nature, perhaps philosophical, but I caught myself doing something the other day. Two things, actually. One was looking at new frameworks, and the other was thinking of new startup ideas. And lately, I've been trying to notice when I do things and understand them a little bit better. Part of some of my cultivating mindfulness, we'll call it. But after a little bit of analysis, introspection, I kind of discovered that I didn't really have good reasons for doing either thing. All of the stuff I'm working on already has good technological solutions, and there's really no reason in the world I need to do another startup and try to make a little bit more money. And so I started to think outwards. If that's basically an existential question, then what does it imply about the things that I see around me? And I can't help but notice that in this little bubble that we live in of software engineering, web development specifically, YouTube, tech influencers or whatever, which I'm not one. I think I have like 30 something followers and I'm amazed anybody listens to me. But all of that being said, I just can't help but notice that most of the discussion is focused around tooling and best practices and the how of what people are doing, and very little is devoted to the why. And that's interesting, right? Like, I mean, we have gone through so many iterations of what is the best way to build the front end for a website. Same goes for the back end. Same goes for DevOps. We now have, if the problem, when I was at LinkedIn years ago was how do you keep a server up and running? Now we don't even have servers. I mean, I realize people are going to say oh, there's always a server, blah, blah, blah. But you know what I mean. From our perspective as developers, you can launch software and never have to worry about a server anymore. It's somebody else's problem. I mean, that's incredible when you think about it. If the hierarchy of needs is food and shelter down here and self-actualization up here, it's like we've been given a cheat code to start here or even here. And I think to some degree we are just not ready for that as developers or perhaps as humans. So yeah, I wish I had spent more time earlier in my life thinking about what self-actualization would look like. I mean, it's quite literally you design your own meaning in life. And that's a very liberating thing, but there's also a lot of responsibility in that. You can't just blame the things that you never learned or never did on not having the time or anything like that. It's all up to you. And that's a weight that few people in human history, other than our generation, can say that they've had to deal with, at least en masse. So that's interesting, right? And I think there's another layer to this too, which is I think in the past there was we all told ourselves stories, right? But like I think the story that we told ourselves was this um, call it fairy tale of the two man. Actually, I'll call it an archetype instead of a fairy tale. But the two guys in their garage who start Apple or Google or whatever it is. So sort of the scrappy upstart becomes the giant, right? Like that's a story that we saw play out again and again in tech media over some decades. And I do think that there's just this feeling that that dream, rightly or wrongly, but I think the feeling that we're picking up on is that it's slipping. Maybe not entirely out of reach, but it is slipping. And to make that a little bit more tangible, what I mean, if you look at the probably the most recent breakthrough, like big breakthrough in tech, where there's like a paradigm shift that threatens the existing order. I mean, it has to be ChatGPT, right? Time will tell whether that's truly revolutionary or just mostly hype. But in any case, it's the biggest thing to come through since well, a while. And the monetary amount to train that was on the order of $100 million more, I think. And so yeah, like there's this. At least I feel it. There's this sense that the most interesting stuff is slipping beyond the grasp of the indie hacker and into call it the more biotechnology model. Where you have to raise hundreds of millions of dollars just to have a product on the market. Like this sort of 1 or 2 man plucky team taking on the world is less likely to hit a home run than it was in the past. And so, what do we do in response? Well, to use a baseball metaphor, right? Instead of hitting home runs, we focus on how to hit a better single or maybe a double if you're lucky. And so the equivalent is we're always talking about how we can create the best bat and techniques for drawing walks more frequently and all of these things, right? And um, it, I guess it's a way of keeping us from having to ask questions to extend the metaphor. Does baseball even matter anymore? And things like that, right? And it's much more easy to ask a question um, than answer it, obviously. But in this case, it's much easier to think about solutions than questions. And so I think we're solution focused people by nature, and it's very natural to think about our tools as opposed to the deeper questions of why we are using them. So that's just a thought. I have not yet found a satisfactory answer in my own case. I'm still searching, and that's part of the reason I have this channel. Candidly, it's I think I've said this before, but it's not to make money. It's not to sell you a course or anything like that. It's really just to play out this exploration in public. And I love to build, so I'm going to keep building. I may not always have a purpose, but to resolve one of the questions I posed at the beginning of the video, yeah, I kept coming up with this list of startups. And why would I do a startup if I don't need the money and I don't want the stress and all the rest? And then I realized, like, why don't I just build projects that deal with the issues I'm thinking about and then give them away to the world in the hopes that people learn or relate or what have you. And so I've been trying to incorporate that practice more into how I do things and just see how it goes. But yeah, I think it's probably not, my guess is that the solution is not going to look much like a light bulb going off. It's going to feel more like something that is built over time, designed, if you will. And that's a process that always takes time. So, anyway, I hope this is not too abstract. I'm genuinely curious what people think and would love to have a conversation if folks are so inclined. Um, and probably next time I will go back to just talking about practical tech matters and things like that. But, from time to time, I do get a little bit curious about things and just feel like posting what amounts to a video diary, I suppose. But in any case, talk soon. Hope everybody is well and happy questioning.